I mean, social media, what a great place that's given people an opinion, fabulous information, a rich tapestry of everything from entertainment to knowledge. What could go possibly wrong? Well, we know what goes wrong. It's also the same rather curious place where people who've got horrendous things to say about other people like to lurk and opine.
Definitely. Social media, unfortunately, is one of the big drivers of hate crime across the country because people feel that they can get away with it.
Yeah.
There's things that people may not say to you in the street that they're quite happy to say on social media.
Sure.
And I think that your previous guest was right in saying that social media companies need to be a lot faster in removing that type of hate from their platforms.
I mean, there is an argument, and I don't necessarily go with this, but I can understand why people say it, that, these are people that would never say this stuff to somebody's face. They would never do it in public. But the anonymity, the chance to be mischievous, the chance to feel like you belong to a little kind of subset within the Twitter sphere just brings out a curious behavior in people. And therefore, we should just kind of almost ignore anything on social media. Doesn't count. Let's deal with the real stuff. What do you say to that?
I think that's hugely problematic because what happens is what starts off on social media, unfortunately, goes off into the real world. So if people develop this habit where they go into social media, they find all of this stuff, where people are attacking minorities and others, then they get themselves into little Facebook groups and other places where they can organize themselves. And before you know it, they're marching on streets and hurling bricks through people's windows. Unfortunately, what starts on social media doesn't always stay on social media, and it does go into people's real lives. And even the things that happen on social media, when it's directed at people, can have a real profound effect on people.
Of course it can.
So it's not just that, it happened on social media, and it's not.
It's very disappointing though, isn't it? I mean, disappointing. I'm sitting here as a white bloke I do get stick and I get horrendous things said to me because I do this for a living, but I don't get it because of the colour of my skin or anything else, or my religion for that matter. But it disappoints me just looking on at this, thinking, it feels like we've kind of gone back 20 years when I read these stories. And, I grew up in an era that you will be familiar with, the National Front doing, what they did, and that was latterly followed by the BNP and the like. And so much of that went away. I know a lot of it went underground, but broadly speaking, we refined ourselves. I've been doing this job a long time. I don't ever remember doing phone-ins about people who had grim views of Muslims in this obvious case, because I'm talking with you. They just didn't exist, those phone-ins. I'm sure they were there. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, we're discussing this. We're discussing racism, penalties, footballers, George Floyd, everything that goes. There's a frenzy, it seems, at the moment, of stuff that I thought we'd at least began to deal with. And we've now put ourselves in reverse.
I mean, I'd agree with you. I grew up in some of those times that you're talking about, etc. And there was a feeling that those sort of things were going away, unfortunately. And I think social media is a big driver of this. But it's not just social media; it's also comments made by politicians. It's also made by things that we hear in mainstream media as well sometimes, where at times it feels that that minorities that it's okay to be a little bit racist. And the more that it's normalized, the more that it's okay, the more that people can tweet about it, the more that newspapers can publish on it.
Is it because people don't see, they see some things as I'm assuming you're partly alluding to the Prime Minister's letterbox comment and things like that, where, some would say in his defence, while he's making a comment on religious garb, not on, individuals. However, even if we gave him the benefit of the doubt, that throws open the floodgates for others to think, well, that's all right. I can then say this.
2 days after the Prime Minister's comment, we had several complaints from Muslim women who wear the type of garment he was talking about. One mother with her children was peed on by a group
by a Telegraph reader.
And there was a mother who was with her children who went up to a lady wearing a niqab and said, "Oh, I left my letters at home. I should, the letterbox is here." So even those comments translate into real life effect on people's lives.
Yeah, and I guess will we ever be able to remove fully hate crimes and the like? We all want to give it a good go. What needs to happen? I mean, I feel when I ask this question, it's a bit of a daft question, Azhar, because it's almost like, how do you police the current human condition? What do we do next? Where do we go?
I mean, people aren't born racist. People aren't born Islamophobic. People aren't born anti-Semitic. So this is something. It's a taught behavior. People naturally people are not inclined to these type of things. This is not a natural inclination. It's a taught behavior. It comes from social media. It comes from media. It comes from, like I said, politicians. It comes from parents, etc. And we need to do more teaching within schools around racism. We need to look at education in general. We need to look at our media and say, why is it that we have, for example, start from Demos, that there's 400 Islamophobic tweets per day just in the UK. Why is it that something like that is okay? Why do we not have legislation against online hate crime? Why do we not have better regulation of our media? And I think those are the sort of things that we need to look at as a society.
Azhar, thank you. Azhar Khayyam, who's the CEO of Muslim Engagement and Development. Thank you to him and our previous guests from Victim Support as well. I think a lot of you listening to this will think, well, hang on, I think I live in a world where we've never had more information about this stuff. We talk incessantly about the horrors of this kind of abuse and condemned, I think, by pretty much most right-minded people. So the info is there, how not to be a racist. Kids growing up in an era where that, I think I'd be right in saying, has never been more glaring and pronounced within education, be that through schools or other initiatives, social media and the like, where the kind of areas that kids would follow, you'd think. So there's a kind of clash there, rising cases, but more information, much like so many things we discuss. You scratch your head and think, well, we